This is the business everyone thinks is easy money. It isn't. And the two countries you're about to see prove it in completely different ways. You've walked past one 100 times. A barber pole spinning outside. A window full of guys getting fades. Somebody's uncle behind the chair. A radio playing something nobody agreed to. It looks like the simplest business on earth. Cut hair, take cash, repeat tomorrow. No inventory rotting in a warehouse. No supply chain crisis. No app to build. Just scissors, a chair, and a line of guys who need a haircut roughly every 3 weeks, whether the economy is booming or on fire. Here's the problem. Two barbershops can look almost identical. Same chairs, same clippers, same guy squinting in the mirror asking for just a little off the top, and be running two completely different financial machines underneath the paint. One of them is quietly betting on real estate. The other one is quietly navigating a currency that loses value every single month it exists. Neither owner will tell you that, because most of them have never actually thought about it that way. They just know the rent is due, the chairs need to stay full, and somehow, some months, there's more left over than others. But strip away the small talk and the tea and the radio, and what you're actually looking at is two men running the same service through two completely different business models, 6,000 miles apart. Let's start where most of you are probably watching from, the United States. Picture a guy named Dave. Dave just got laid off from his sales job, watched one too many videos about recession-proof businesses, and decided the answer was obvious. Everybody needs a haircut. Nobody stops getting haircuts in a downturn. He walks into a shop for sale, watches the owner cash out 4 customers in 20 minutes flat, and thinks, I could do this in my sleep. So how much does a place like this usually go for? Dave asks. Depends, the owner says, not even looking up from the register. You want the real number or the number that sounds nice on a podcast? That's basically the entire American barbershop industry summed up in one sentence. There's the number that sounds nice, and there's the number that actually shows up on your bank statement 18 months later. Opening a barbershop in America looks deceptively simple, right up until somebody hands you the invoice. A small, no-frills 2 to 3 chair shop in a modest strip mall will run you somewhere between $25,000 and $50,000. That covers a lease deposit, basic renovation, a handful of chairs, anywhere from $500 for something you'd find at a garage sale to $3,000 for the kind of hydraulic throne that makes a customer feel important, plus mirrors, lighting, and just enough working capital to survive the slow months before word gets around. Want an actual, respectable 4 to 6 chair shop with a real build-out? Now you're at $50,000 to $100,000. Want the premium version? The one in a neighborhood where the rent alone could feed a family of 4. The one with the exposed brick and the guy who does beard oil consultations. Now you're at $100,000 to $200,000, sometimes considerably more. And this isn't a guess pulled out of a barber's cape. The Small Business Administration has issued over 3,000 startup loans specifically for barbershops, and the median loan amount sits at $137,000. A quarter of those shops borrowed less than $32,000. A quarter borrowed more than $310,000. That's the real spread of this business, not one number, but a canyon between the guy who bootstrapped 2 chairs in a strip mall and the guy who's basically opened a spa with clippers. Here's where it gets interesting, because in America, the person whose name is on the lease usually isn't the one cutting your hair. And that single fact changes everything about how this business actually makes money. It's called booth rental, and it flips the entire relationship most people assume exists inside a barbershop. A barber doesn't get hired and paid a salary the way you'd imagine. Instead, he pays the shop owner somewhere between $500 and $1,600 a month, just for the right to stand at a station under that shop's roof. Whatever he earns after that, every fade, every beard trim, every tip stuffed in a jar, he keeps. The owner isn't really running a barbershop anymore, not in the way the sign outside suggests. The owner is running a landlord operation that happens to have clippers buzzing in the background. Think about what that actually means. You collect rent, whether that barber has the best week of his career or the worst one of his life. You don't pay a cent of payroll tax on money that technically never touched your hands. You don't have to manage his schedule, his mood, or his opinions about which podcast should play on the shop speaker. You just need the chair full and the check on time. This changes what actually matters in the day-to-day of the business, and it's not what you'd think. It's not really about who gives the best haircut in town. It's about something almost embarrassingly boring: chair utilization. Industry benchmarks say a healthy shop needs each chair generating at least $4,000 a month in total activity. Fall below $2,500, and that chair stops being an asset and starts quietly functioning as a liability, still costing you rent, insurance, and electricity while producing almost nothing back. An empty chair in an American barbershop isn't peaceful. It's a small, silent hole in your bank account, chewing through $2,000 a month whether anyone notices or not. Run the full numbers, and a typical independent American barbershop pulls in somewhere between $180,000 and $400,000 a year in revenue, with a net margin sitting in the 12 to 20% range. It's on a shop doing $280,000 a year. A completely normal, unremarkable, nothing special shop. The owner walks away with somewhere around $45,000 annually. That's after rent, staff, insurance, and the slow, invisible bleed of shampoo bottles, disposable capes, and clipper blades that dull faster than anyone budgets for. Labor alone eats about 40% of revenue. Rent and overhead eat another 20%. What's left, once you actually do the math instead of eyeballing a packed shop on a Saturday afternoon, is a lot thinner than the line out the door would suggest. So that's the American version, in one sentence. A licensing exam, 1,000 to 2,000 hours of state-mandated training, and underneath all of it, a real estate bet, quietly wearing an apron. But Dave's got one more decision to make, and it's the one that quietly determines whether he's building something or just buying himself a very expensive part-time job. Does he go independent, or does he buy into a franchise chain? The chains promise something tempting: a known brand, a built-in customer base, a playbook that's already been tested in 1,000 other strip malls. What they don't advertise quite as loudly is the ongoing royalty fee, usually somewhere around 6 to 8% of gross revenue, paid out forever, whether business is booming or dead. Plus a marketing fund contribution on top of that, whether the national ad campaign actually sends anyone to Dave's specific location or not. Buy into a chain, and you're not really the owner of a barbershop anymore. Not entirely. You're a landlord who also happens to be paying rent to someone else, on the brand itself. Go independent, and Dave keeps 100% of what's left after his own expenses, but he's also on his own for every bit of marketing, every bit of reputation building, every slow Tuesday afternoon with nobody in the chairs. There's no corporate playbook to fall back on. There's just Dave, a sign out front, and however many 5-star reviews he can convince his regulars to leave him. Neither choice is obviously right. It's the classic trade-off sitting underneath half of small business in America. Pay for a safety net, or keep everything and build your own. Now here's the fun part. Fly 6,000 miles east, and the entire business turns into something almost unrecognizable. In Turkey, they don't call it a barbershop, they call it a berber, and that word is dragging centuries of history behind it, like a cape nobody bothered to take off. During the Ottoman Empire, the berber wasn't just cutting hair, he was performing minor surgery, pulling teeth, letting blood, functioning as something between a doctor, a dentist, and the one guy in the neighborhood who knew everyone's business and kept most of it to himself. That history never fully left the chair. It just traded a scalpel for a straight razor. Walk into a neighborhood berber in Istanbul today, and before anyone touches a single hair on your head, you'll be handed tea, or Turkish coffee if you look like you can handle it. You'll get a hot towel pressed against your face, a straight razor shave with a blade sharpened by hand on a leather strop, ear hair singed off with an actual open flame. Yes, fire, near your ear, and somehow this is considered relaxing, and a shoulder massage to close things out. All of that, And you might still spend less than what an American would tip a barber in Brooklyn for a 15-minute fade. Basic haircut in a classic neighborhood berber runs somewhere around $6 to $8. Walk into one of Istanbul's newer, styled erkek kuaförü shops. The concept interiors, the espresso machine parked by the door, the Instagram-ready lighting, and you're looking at closer to $20. Either way, you are getting more ritual, more time, more theater, for a fraction of what the same chair time costs back in an American strip mall. Here's the part that should genuinely make you sit up. Opening a modest, two-chair neighborhood berber in Turkey costs roughly 250 to 450,000 Turkish lira. At today's exchange rate, with the dollar sitting around 48 lira, that converts to somewhere between $5,200 and $9,400. A styled, concept men's salon runs 450 to 800,000 lira, which is $9,000 to $17,000. Even a full premium multi-chair barbershop, the kind with the wood paneling and the vinyl records on the wall, tops out around 800,000 lira and up, under $17,000 to open the doors on the nicest berber in the neighborhood. Compare that to the $25,000 to $50,000 it takes just to open the cheapest, most bare-bones version of the same business back in America. On paper, Turkey looks like the deal of the century. Same craft, same clippers, same straight razor, for roughly a fifth of the price. If you stopped the video right here, you'd walk away thinking the smartest move on earth is to fly to Istanbul, open a berber, and retire early on Turkish lira. Don't book that flight yet. That cheap price tag is hiding something, and it's exactly the kind of detail that never makes it into anyone's glossy "move abroad and start a business" video. Turkey's minimum wage in 2026 sits at just over 28,000 lira a month, net. Convert that, and you get roughly $585. A month, not a week. A fully qualified master barber. They call him a usta, the top rank of a formal, generations-old apprenticeship hierarchy, earns somewhere between 55 and 60,000 lira a month. That's about $1,150. A journeyman, a kalfa, earns less, somewhere around $800. An apprentice, a chirak, earns a fraction of the minimum wage while he's still learning, sometimes literally sweeping hair off the floor for years before anyone lets him near a customer's throat with a blade. That latter, chirak to kalfa to usta, isn't some informal made-up hierarchy. It's a structured apprenticeship system with roots stretching back centuries, and it still shapes how most Turkish barbers actually learn the trade today. In America, you sit through 1,000 to 2,000 hours of state-approved school, pass an exam, and you're a licensed barber. In Turkey, you climb a ladder that can take years, earning next to nothing at the bottom of it, before you're finally trusted with the good scissors. So yes, the labor really is that cheap. That part isn't a myth. A well-run luxury berber, working by appointment, upselling grooming products on the side, can net its owner somewhere between 200,000 and 400,000 lira a month, $4,200 to $8,300. A more typical, standard neighborhood shop nets its owner around 75 to 100,000 lira a month, somewhere between $1,500 and $2,100. On paper, that sounds genuinely solid. A guy running a two-chair shop in a Turkish neighborhood, clearing the equivalent of 2,000 American dollars a month, in a country where the cost of living is a fraction of a major US city. Sounds like he won. Except that 75,000 lira in his register isn't sitting still. It's melting. The lira isn't stable, and it hasn't been stable for years. Turkey's annual inflation rate has been sitting above 30%. The currency has weakened against the dollar by roughly 17% in just the past 12 months, sliding to record lows month after month, while the central bank manages what analysts describe as a controlled devaluation, a slow, managed slide rather than a sudden collapse, with the central bank intervening periodically to keep the pace gradual. Picture our berber owner again. He counts 75,000 lira in profit this month and feels good, genuinely good. That's real money, real customers, real work well done. But that same 75,000 lira buys noticeably less than it did a year ago. It will buy less again next year. even if he raises his prices right along with everyone else, even if his shop is packed every single day. He isn't really running a haircut business anymore, not purely. He's running a cash business inside a currency that quietly evaporates the longer he holds onto it, like ice left out on the counter. You can watch it happen if you stare long enough, and there is nothing personal about it. His real survival strategy isn't marketing, and it isn't customer service, even though both matter. It's speed. How fast can he turn that cash into something that doesn't lose value? New equipment, inventory, dollars, gold, anything but lira sitting in a drawer. Turkish shop owners have gotten remarkably good at behaving like currency traders without ever calling it that. Ask one why he just bought a new espresso machine he didn't strictly need, and he probably won't say, "I'm protecting my profit from inflation." He'll say, "Business is good, same decision." Completely different vocabulary. This is where the real difference between these two countries stops being about scissors, chairs, or straight razors, and starts being about something much bigger. What money itself is actually doing to each of these guys while they're not looking. In America, the barbershop owner is playing a real estate game, whether he'd describe it that way or not. His biggest risk isn't the currency in his cash register, it's a lease renewal, a landlord who decides the neighborhood's gotten trendy enough to double the rent, a competitor 2 blocks away undercutting his booth rental rates. In Turkey, the Berber owner's biggest risk isn't his landlord, it's the calendar. Every month that cash sits in his register, instead of turning into something else, he's quietly losing ground, even on his best week. Same haircut, same clippers, same straight razor gliding across someone's jaw at the exact same angle his grandfather probably used. 2 completely different financial realities underneath it, built entirely by whichever currency each country happens to be running that decade. And here's the part that should really mess with your head a little. Neither one of these guys is doing anything wrong. Neither one is a genius, and neither one is a fool. The American owner can save what he earns. $1 sitting in the bank a decade from now still buys roughly a haircut's worth of value. His skill gets rewarded in a straight line. Better service, better margin, more money in the bank, full stop. The Turkish owner's skill matters just as much, arguably more. A bad Berber in a country with this much competition doesn't survive a season, but his reward for that skill gets quietly worn down by something he never signed up for and can't control. He can cut the best fade in Istanbul and still watch part of that profit dissolve, simply because of the number printed on his currency. A number decided in rooms he'll never enter. That's the lesson hiding inside something as small as a haircut. The craft is nearly identical, whether you're in Istanbul or in Ohio. What decides who keeps the fruits of their skill and who watches a slice of it dissolve every month isn't the haircut at all. It's the money the haircut gets paid in. So the next time you sit down in a barber's chair, anywhere in the world, remember, you're not just paying for 20 minutes of somebody's skill with a pair of scissors. You're stepping into whatever financial system that country happens to be running that particular year, whether either of you ever thinks about it that way or not. And whether that man walks away from his career wealthy or just walks away even depends less on how good he is with a razor and a lot more on something he never chose and can't do a single thing to control. That's the real economics of a haircut. Cheap almost everywhere, simple nowhere.